Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Thank you for joining us. And for those that join us today and join us every week, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High tick. And of course, be on higher ground with us at our 10th year anniversary in 2022 in June at Mile High. Today, I am super thrilled to have as a guest the one and only Hugh Liddle. Many people, many chiropractors work with him. Many of our Lifetime Wellness Inner Circle members know him from all the episodes he does for them on sales and the sales process. Hugh Liddle is the sales wizard, and he has been my mentor in this area for years and years and years, and mentors our team regularly. I am very grateful for a larger audience to get to connect with Hugh Liddle. Truly, he is so brilliant at helping teams and communication, and as his book says, take the icky and out of sales. Hugh Liddle, thank you for joining us today.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Danny.
Well, we love getting to spend time with you, and I'll tell everybody any time spent with Hugh Liddle is time well spent. So I know people will get a lot out of this episode. You may want to rewind it a couple times. First of all, let's start out letting people get to know you a little bit better, Hugh. And we're going to be talking about sales. We're going to be talking about Hugh's selling philosophy. We're going to talk about sales skills that have to be developed so that people know what they have to do to help their team with. But let's get to know Hugh a little bit more and how he became a sales wizard, okay, for Red Cap Sales Coaching. Hugh, how did you get into sales, first of all?
When I got out of the Air Force in 1970, I had the opportunity to go to work for a number of different companies. And I really didn't want to climb telephone poles for a living because I kind of like keeping my feet on the ground. And I had one of the companies that I could go to work for was an insurance company, and it was sales oriented. And I thought I would like to do that because my mom always told people that I started talking when I was 6 months old and that I've never quit since. I had the gift of gab, and I'd just be laughing my way to the bank every Friday. And, you know, I could certainly sell people and get them insured. So I very quickly found out that there's more to it than just having a personality and being able to talk. And if no was fatal, I'd have been dead in 1970 because I heard no a whole lot more than I heard yes when I first started. And the only thing that I really had going for me was I was too stinking stubborn to quit. So I kept on. And over the course of time, listening to records back in those days, instead of CDs or DVDs, it was records about sales and about positive mental attitude and all of those kinds of things. And I had some good mentors along the way who taught me. And eventually I got really good at what I did and became the sales wizard with my own sales coaching company starting in 2008. So that's kind of the history of what I've done.
And I think we connected in 2009-ish or later than that, around that time.
Probably the end of 2008, actually.
Okay. There we go. And it's very interesting that you said that you would have been dead a long time ago, because I think about chiropractors and what you said about just being able to talk wasn't enough in terms of the sales process or the gift of gab. So many chiropractors think just knowing the philosophy or just knowing the art will be enough. And they end up maybe not dead, but out of business. And that's not what we want to see, especially for clinically excellent, philosophically driven chiropractors that are focused on helping people with delivering real, true chiropractic. So then let's bring that to the next step, how did you find your way? How did you first get introduced to chiropractic, and how did you find your way working with chiropractors?
Well, I started seeing chiropractors years ago when I was 30 years old.
Wow.
My football career ended. I played football in high school, and I was playing flag football on my church football team. And we were playing against a church from across town where one of my best buddies was on the team, and he's about the same size I am. And on a kickoff, we ran into each other, and I just tore my shoulder up. And from that time on, every time I was under any kind of stress or just not feeling all that good, I just really caught it in this right shoulder. And so I decided to try chiropractic, and they really helped me with the shoulder pain. And so I went to chiropractors for years. And Danny, you were one of my very first clients. And so I learned a lot more about chiropractic and why it's effective, and especially the network chiropractic that you practice. Learned why that's so effective and how it really helps people get healthy instead of just taking care of symptoms for a little bit. So that's kind of how I got introduced to chiropractic.
Yes. And at some point during this, I'll tell people how I got introduced to you, because I think it's a very important story, and how that goes full circle. And, you've spoken at many of our programs, which is always so well received by the audience and helps them tremendously. One of my favorite things you ever said during the program was, "You're not the jackass whisperer." And that has to do with how people buy, right? And it has to do with also knowing your value. And we'll dive into that a little bit. Before we dive into the buying and selling process and your selling philosophy, I know you have a masterclass coming up real soon about why people buy. So can you just mention that right off the bat so people have the data and information, and then we'll dive deeper into these topics?
January 25th, which is a Tuesday, there will be a session at 1:30 in the afternoon and Eastern time. And then the session will be repeated again at 7 o'clock in the evening, Eastern time. So whichever session works best for you. And if you're not able to make either of those sessions on a Tuesday, it's perfectly okay. Go ahead and register anyway, and you'll get a video after the class is over with. The reason that you should attend live, if you can, is that it gives you the opportunity to ask questions and to make comments and to actually interact with me and with Savannah, the sales wizard, my sidekick, who's going to be on the show as well.
Who used to work at our office.
She did, yeah. She was Danny's front desk person, and then moved to North Carolina, and she decided to work with me for a while.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about sales and the subconscious. And we're going to talk about 3 different kinds of people to whom you could market or sell. And one of those groups of people are people who already believe in chiropractic or whatever service or product is being sold. They believe in it. They know about it. They've been doing it for years. And they don't feel like they need to know anything else. They don't need to feel like they need to do anything else. They're healthy. They're in really good shape. They're optimally healthy. And so that's one group of people. You have another group of people who their daily routine is a 6-pack of beer with a bourbon chaser and ribs or steak every night for dinner. And they love to sit in front of the TV and watch shows. And they're perfectly content with that. They don't want to do anything else. They don't really care about being healthy. I'm going to die this way. And then there's a group in the middle. And the group in the middle are the ones that you actually want to market to and that you actually want to sell to, because they are people who have not achieved optimal health. And maybe they do have some symptoms. Maybe they don't have symptoms, that they just need more energy. They want to feel better. They want to be really, really healthy. And that's important to them. And they're looking for something. They want that optimal health. Those are the people you want to talk to. You don't want to talk to the people who are already way healthy and think they know everything about health and they don't need any help with anything. You don't want to talk with the people who aren't concerned about their health at all. You want that middle group. And those are the kinds of things we're going to discuss in the webinar.
Excellent, excellent. We'll put the link for that in the liner notes here. But just say real quick, where do people find out more? And then let's dive deep into your selling philosophy.
They can go to redcapsalescoaching.com.
Okay.
And it'll be announced there. And the inner circle people have already seen one post with the links in it. You'll see more before the 25th gets here. And appreciate you helping me promote that, Danny.
Excellent, excellent. Now let's talk about selling. Chiropractors talk a lot about philosophy, as you well know, working with so many chiropractic offices and helping so many chiropractic offices up level their bottom line. Okay. It's good when your bottom line goes up. All right. What's your selling philosophy?
My sales philosophy is that it's not your job as a salesperson, the seller of your care, or your team's selling of your care. It's not the salesperson's job to get prospects to do what the seller wants them to do, or thinks they should do, or even knows that they should do. It's your job as a salesperson to find out what people want and then help them get it. And that may seem like a very small difference. Actually, it's huge. If you go into a sales conversation thinking, I've got to get them to do this because I know they need it. Listen, Danny knows, all of you who are listening to this call know, and I know that everybody needs chiropractic. Everybody needs it. Not everybody wants it. And that's the difference. You don't have, and the quote that Danny gave you a minute ago, you're not the jackass whisperer. It's not your job to get people who don't want to do it to think that they should do it. If you're even able to pressure them in somehow into starting care, they won't stay for very long because it's not what they want. So I'm sorry.
It's okay. It was a good tune.
Yeah. So you don't sell what people need. You sell what people want because people buy what they want. They don't buy what they need. Danny, how much stuff have you bought in the past that you didn't really need, but you just wanted it?
Oh, I can probably say garage fills.
Everybody's had that experience. So you didn't buy what you needed, you bought what you wanted. I have a 2005 Dodge Ram pickup truck out here that starts every time I turn the key, and it runs great. It doesn't look as good or smell as good as it used to. If I went down to buy a new truck, it would be because I wanted something that looked better and smelled better and had more bells and whistles on it. It wouldn't be because I need a new truck, because this truck does everything that a truck is supposed to do. It gets me where I need to go. And so I would have to want to buy a new truck because I don't need to buy a new truck. Mm-hmm. If the truck broke down and it was going to cost gazillions of dollars to fix it, then maybe I might need a new truck. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody needs chiropractic. Not everybody wants it right now. So who you're trying to market to and who you want to sell to is people who want what you're selling. They want optimal health. They want to feel better. They want to function better. They want to be able to do the things that they want to do. Those are the people you want to talk to. And those are the people who will buy because they're buying what they want. Mm-hmm. So that's my overall philosophy.
Yes. And that's so important because there's no shortage of spines distorted. There's no lack of people that could could use a healthier spine. So you couldn't possibly take care of everybody that needs a healthier spine. You couldn't do it. If everybody in your town decided today, I need a healthier spine, I'm going to the chiropractors in your town would be in trouble. You have to focus your energy on the people that will be your best practice members and are excited to be there, and rather than chase people. So what's the most important sales skill that salespeople need to develop?
Well, there are a lot of people who think that the most important sales skill is being able to talk well. And you've probably heard people say, oh, man, can that guy talk? Or boy, can that woman talk? She should be in sales. Actually, the most important sales skill that you need to develop if you want to be super successful in selling is the skill of listening. Listening with your ears and with your mind and with your heart. And the heart piece is probably the most important piece, especially when you're selling chiropractic care.
Right.
Because first of all, buying decisions are made emotionally. So you have to get on the emotional level with the people with whom you're having conversations. You have to find out what they want and why they want it. You need to ask questions that are emotionally based rather than ones that are logically based or scientifically based. Get down to where they live, what's going on in their life, how are they feeling about their overall health, what do they want, what do they want their life to be like, what's their life been like up until now, what do they want to change, how important is it to them to change. Those are all emotionally based things, and that's what you need to know in order to be able to sell effectively to that person. So being able to listen very carefully is tremendously important. And it's one of the reasons why scripting is so important for salespeople. And Danny's crew and a lot of other chiropractors have good scripts that they're using on a consistent basis. They have those memorized, they're role played, they're rehearsed until they're just natural and normal. And what that does, when you know exactly what you're going to say and how you're going to say it and how you're going to respond when people say various things in response to you, you don't have to sit and think as they're talking about what you're going to say next. You can listen to them, and then you can respond already having a really great general idea of what you're going to say and how you're going to say it.
At one of the Mile High events, and I've heard him say this at other places, Liam Schubel, who you know, said something in his Liam way about people relative to scripts. And he said, look, because he has something like 150 chiropractors working for him in offices around the world. So he's got to train them, right? And he said, without a script, you suck. And so a lot of people just want to roll the dice with what they say. And however, at the same time, another friend of mine who you know, Ryan Ryder, said there is no magic script. It's not the script that does it, right? You said something vital there, to be natural. Like, we train on scripts. People have to learn them backwards, forwards, in their sleep, and then it has to sound natural and put you into it. All vital, important things, which comes back to your book. What was the title of your book again?
Take the icky and scary out of sales.
Yes, take the icky and scary out of sales. Sales gets a bad rap in the chiropractic business, and actually all health professions. They say there's no selling in healthcare. They're selling anytime there's any kind of transaction. Even the transaction of convincing your wife to watch a movie with you. Okay. So, and which movie it is, whether it's going to be, the Avengers or it's going to be Hallmark, there's a sales process going on there. Okay. So
And
With
I know who wins that transaction at your house.
Yes, yes. I know who is it at your house too. So, but here's the thing. With that, why do people get afraid of sales? Why does it seem icky? And how do they change that?
Well, I think part of it, once again, is the sales philosophy. Anytime that you go into a sales conversation thinking, I've got to get them to do this, that's really being self-centered rather than other-centered. Because the reason I have to get them to do this is because if I don't, I'm not going to make enough money. Or if I don't, my boss is going to be mad at me. Or if I don't, I might have to go out of business. Or if I don't, and if you're focused on yourself and what's going on in your life while you're having a sales conversation, your focus is in the wrong place. Your focus needs to be 100% on the person across the table from you, the person to whom you're selling. What do they think? How do they feel? What's their situation? What do they want? What's going on in their life that they want to change? What do they not have in their life that they want there? What's in their life that they don't want there? What's going on and how can you help them? Those are the things that you need to be concentrating on and focusing on in your sales conversation. And the reason that people are afraid to sell is typically because they're afraid that somebody's going to tell them no.
Right.
And if they tell me no, wow, that means there must be something wrong with me. Must be something wrong with chiropractic. There must be something wrong with my office. There must be something wrong with my price point. There must be something wrong if somebody says no. So I don't want anybody to say no. So I won't really ask for the sale. I'll just give them all this great information and hopefully they'll jump up and say, this is great. Here's my credit card. When can I start? And if you don't ask, you don't receive, folks. It's just that simple. You got to ask for the sale.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's in the Bible somewhere too.
It is.
So
was a pretty smart guy.
Yeah. So now you talked about the why people buy and the subconscious and something you're going to be talking about on that masterclass in a little bit. What's the importance of the subconscious and the limbic brain when it comes to selling?
The limbic brain is the emotional part of your brain. And there's also a part of your brain that is logic. When it comes to making decisions, decisions are always made in the subconscious, in the limbic portion of your brain, 5 or 6 seconds before you logically decide to make the decision. So your subconscious is really running the show when it comes to decision making and really when it comes to your life. Now, the good news is that you can consciously program your subconscious, and you can consciously feed proper information into the subconscious mind of other people. And so the value statements that you make about what's in it for people if they receive care at your office is actually feeding positive information into that person's subconscious. And their subconscious is going to make the decision about whether they buy or whether they don't. It's the limbic brain that you want to influence. And that's, a few minutes ago, we were talking about getting on the emotional level with people. That's why you have to do that, because that's where the decision is made. It's made emotionally every time. When it doesn't make any difference if it's a guy or a woman who goes into the store to buy clothes. You don't look at a piece of clothing and say, oh, well, that's really well made. It's well tailored. It's classic lines. If I buy this coat, I probably won't have to buy another coat for 20 years. This will never go out of style. And the price point is really good. So I think I'll buy this. You don't do that. You try it on and you go look in the mirror. Oh man, do I look great in that? I'm buying this. I don't care how much it costs. And that's how people buy. Purchases are made on emotion. And then what we do is we justify the purchase that we made logically. So you go and buy a new car or a new truck. You don't go and buy a new car or truck because, oh, it's going to get so much better gas mileage than my old truck gets.
Right.
Or, oh, it's going to be so much safer. It's got these built-in safety features. You get in the car or the truck with the salesperson and you go out for a test drive. And you smell the new car smell, and you see how cool the heads-up display is, and you listen to the stereo, and you look at all the bells and whistles and how everything works, and you say, I gotta have this truck. Let's see what the payments are. I'll figure out some way. I gotta have this. That's an emotional sale. And then you can come up with all of the logical stuff afterwards. Oh, well, honey, I had to buy the truck because it gets so much better gas mileage. Well, how many times are you going to have to go to the pump to save $30,000 that you just spent on the truck? It doesn't even make sense logically. You try to justify the sale that way, though.
Right.
And people do that with any kind of sale. They do it with chiropractic sales. They're going to buy emotionally because they want something different in their life and their health. They want to be able to do some things they can't do right now. They want to feel differently than they feel right now. And they may justify the purchase later, the investment that they make in chiropractic. It's the way they feel, though. It's the emotional trigger that causes them to decide to make a positive buying decision. So there are things that you can say and things that you can do that will influence them on an emotional basis and help them come to the decision that is the right decision for them.
Right, right. And there's another factor there too, that owns part of that emotion. It's trust, having a sense of trust.
Absolutely.
Can you say anything about that?
Absolutely. People buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And it's really crazy. People will go down the street and buy the identical service, not provided as well, that costs more because they like the people they're doing business with in the other practice or the other business more than they like yours. So that's one of the reasons that it's so important to have an excellent front desk person, an excellent office manager, employees who are treating customers like they're the most important people in the entire world while they're in the office, because they are the most important people in the entire world to your practice. And if people don't have that experience, if they're not greeted properly, if they have the feeling that they're just a number, they're like cattle going through a chute, and people in this office don't really care about you. They're just going through the motions so they can get your money. If they have that feeling, they're not going to buy.
Or continue to buy.
Yeah. A story about that. I took my wife to the eye doctor one time, and they have a couple of different waiting rooms and then examination rooms. So you wait in the outer room till you're called in, then you go into another waiting room and you wait for a while, and then you go into an examination room where they do whatever they do. And there was an elderly lady sitting across from us in the chairs in the outer waiting room. The assistant came to the door to the inner waiting room, and she opened the door, called the woman's name. The woman got up and walked over toward the door. And when she got to the door, the assistant turned and walked through the door ahead of her, did not greet her, did not say, "Hi, Mrs. So-and-so. Oh, I'm so glad you came in today. It's so good to see you." Nothing like that. Didn't say a word, just turned and walked in through the door. And I told my wife, wow, if it was me, I wouldn't be doing business with these folks if that's how people get treated.
Right.
So, so there's a whole process of communication and building rapport that takes place from the time the telephone is answered. Think about that. Danny, you know this, that people who you talk to on the telephone can tell whether you're smiling or whether you're in a good mood or whether you're grumpy. They know if somebody just licked all the red off your candy and you're pissed. They could tell just by listening to your voice. They get that energy even through the phone. So every time that anybody answering the phone in your office picks up the phone, there needs to be a smile on their face, a great attitude, and wonderful energy that's being projected through the phone so that people want to come in and have a conversation. And that continues through their initial just response as they walk through the front door and they're greeted. I always tell the front desk people that I work with that they actually are the most important person in the practice because they're the first impression. And people will judge the practice based on what that front desk person does and says. Mm-hmm. And it sets the tone for the whole thing. And it follows on through with every contact they have with every person in the office. They've got to feel noticed and valued, and it builds trust. And they want to be part of that practice because they feel important. And Danny, you know this, there are some people out there that your office is the only place where they ever feel important. Right. They don't get that from their significant other. They don't get it from their family. They don't get it from their friends. They get it from your crew, from your team.
Right. Exactly. And so it's so important because so often chiropractors are so focused on the sale and so focused on new patients that they will go for every shiny object that was promising them a busload of new patients. But then they don't have a welcoming environment, good scripting, a sales process, a trust environment that people feel like, wow, I just love being here. And they think they don't need all that because there's some shiny object and somehow bring them the amount of money they need. And that is a path to burnout. It's a path to a up and down roller coaster practice, and really not a lot of fulfillment in your life. So I want people to really understand you have an incredible calling as a chiropractor, and embracing these principles that Hugh is talking about is vital. Chiropractors, and that's part of why sales can get icky, is that when you're focused on just making the sale versus the service part of what you're doing, right?
It is. And the other thing that enters into that, Danny, is that all of us have stuff that happens in our lives aside from work. I know this never happens with you and Rochelle. Sometimes, though, right before you head out to work, you have a disagreement with your significant other, or something happens with your kids and they're driving you nuts, or you have people in your office who have a disagreement with each other or get irritated with each other. Again, Danny, I know that never happens in your office.
Never.
And people in your office need to set those things aside, and you need to set those things aside. You need to put those off for later on. Do the Scarlett O'Hara thing. I'll think about it tomorrow. I'll think about it when work is over with. And put your focus strictly on doing what needs to be done to make your office so welcoming. Mm-hmm. And it has to do with attitude and with focus, like we talked about before. You got to focus on the people who are coming into your office rather than on yourself and what's happening with you. Even if you're thinking about how fun it's going to be this weekend to go someplace, or how great it's going to be to meet all your friends down at the pub after work, your focus is in the wrong place. when
Yep.
you're having a sales conversation. You got to focus on helping that person.
Right. Right. So true. Now, I want to ask you to talk to our audience here about the difference between a hard no and an objection. But first, I'm going to tell a story because I'm seeing here, looking at you with the beard, because you didn't always have a beard. I knew you without a beard, right? And seeing you with the beard, and you're looking very wizardly. Especially since we're watching the Harry Potter reunion episodes lately in our household. So I want to tell people, I found the other day, Rochelle's birthday, we had someone deliver some chocolate cake to our home. Somebody ordered as a gift chocolate cake. And I thought that was so nice. And it was a business that I happen to like and appreciate. And we often do business with, our office does. So I saw the delivery person with the custom van, kind of like you have the custom truck, you had a custom delivery van. And I said, are you just a delivery person? Or do you work for the company? Because I wanted to say something positive about the company. And he said, well, I guess you could say I work for them. I'm actually the owner. He was doing delivery. The owner of this well-known store in Boulder was doing this delivery, which is, many people consider the low-end position, right? But he was live doing that. And I talked to him. I said, how great we appreciate you. I took a picture. I said, I wanted to take a picture with you in your truck to promote your business because we appreciate you. Like I was using it as a connection moment of rapport with this other business, right? Okay. So, and Hugh, you did something, how I met Hugh originally, okay, was this. Hugh, I was sitting in my house and I got a knock on the door with our couple little kids and I was home, and this man knocks on the door and starts telling me and asking me if we drink milk. And he asking me about, the milkman and delivering milk and so on. And he spoke so well. Myself, I didn't drink milk for years that I actually ordered a subscription to milk, and I don't drink milk because it sounded so good. And by the time he was done speaking with me, I walked back into the house, and Rochelle, I repeated all this stuff, these value, like it goes from the, from the cow to you, and it's better than organic and all this stuff. And she's like, Danny, you don't drink milk. I know, but this is better. So, and our kids and so on. Later on, and I was so excited about it. And we were subscribers of that milk for a very long time. Later on, it still may be the best milk we ever had. Later on, I was looking, I said, you know what? We're hitting a wall in our office. I'm training people on sales. I don't have sales training. I have scripting. I'm good with patients. And I'm getting tired of training people on the same things, and I'm not necessarily doing it well. Kind of like doing the lawn. I could do the lawn. I'm not going to do it all that well. Okay. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start searching online for someone. There's got to be someone in the area that trains people in sales. So I started Googling, sales trainers, Boulder, and so on. And then Red Cap sales training at that time came up. And so I scheduled a consultation. And as I was talking to him, I was like, I know this face. I know the face. And then it dawned on me, this was the milkman that sold me on the milk. And I realized it. I don't know if I realized it that day or I realized later, or a session or two later of working with you. But here's the thing. You were, as a trainer, having to train people, saying, you know what, I'm going to do this myself so I can develop the script for these people, for this company. And that's like going into the trenches and doing this. And this is what Hugh does with working with chiropractic teams. Like he helps them be able to, now he's worked with so many, he's so good at it. I guess it wasn't a question, it was just a story.
Thank you, Danny.
And the rest is history. So talking about that, being door to door can be a hard no, right? And there also could be objections like, I don't drink milk. Okay, which is not necessarily a hard no. It seems like a pretty bad no, but it could be a better one, right? And so what's the difference between, in any sales situation, a hard no and an objection?
It goes back to the want factor.
Okay.
If you and I are having a sales conversation and you show me the financial options that I have available to me, and I say, there's no way that I'm going to give anybody that much money to have chiropractic care. I know I can go down the street and get it for less. I don't want to do this. That's a hard no. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do it. Come in 3 times a week. You got to be out of your mind. I want to come in whenever I want to. And if you won't do that for me, I don't want to do this. That's a hard no. Wow, that's more money than I thought it was going to be. I don't know if I can do that. That's an objection. Boy, 3 times a week seems pretty excessive. How come I have to come in that much? That's an objection. Well, listen, do I have to decide right now? I really would like to go home and think about this for a little while. That's an objection. You know what? I really need to talk to my financial advisor before I invest $5,000. That's an objection. Well, listen, you're actually the first chiropractor that I talked to. I think I'd like to check with some other chiropractors. That's an objection. And that's the difference between a hard no and an objection. If somebody says, you know what, this isn't for me. I don't like this airy-fairy soft touch stuff. You know, I want somebody who wrenches my neck around and cracks it. That's what I'm used to. That's what I want. That's a hard no. And those are the times, the hard no's are the times when you don't have to be the jackass whisperer. You don't have to convince them that they really should do business with you and get care at your office. You don't have to do that, and you shouldn't do that. Objections, though, are based on their perception that there's an obstacle in their way that might prevent them from having what they want. And then your job is to try to help them move past the obstacle so they can have what they want. Because that's the objective of having the sales conversation, to help other people do what they want to do. If they decide that they don't want care for some reason, your job is to help them do what they want. Kindly, gently let them go their way for the time being. Mm-hmm. And remind them that if they don't find what they're looking for out there someplace else, they're always welcome to come back, because they can't get anyplace else what they can get in your practice. Mm-hmm. Plant that seed and let them go kindly. Let them go with a really good taste in their mouth about you and about the practice. And as their situation changes, they'll come back. Mm-hmm. I have a client, somebody that you know very well, Danny, who the person said, I'm not going to do this. There's just no way I can afford to do this at this point. Can't do it. And that person was told, you know what, your situation isn't always going to stay the same. And listen, if you can afford $50 a month, if that's what you can comfortably budget out, start putting that away, start saving it. And when you put the money together, come back and see me, because you can't get anyplace else what you can get here. A year later, that person called, made an appointment, came in and paid in full for his care because he had been saving his money for a year. He wanted the care so much. Mm-hmm. So they helped that person do what he wanted to do, even though he didn't start care for a year. They helped him do what he wanted to do, and he had a great taste in his mouth when he left the office. If they had tried to pressure him into somehow, you've got to somehow do this, you have to do this. If they had tried to pressure him, he probably would have gone away and never returned. Right. So that's the difference between a hard no and an objection.
Right, right. So important. And, you know, this is why these kinds of things are why I will say, not just chiropractors, but chiropractic teams need coaching and mentoring. and it's so vital for them. Can you say anything more about why coaching and mentoring is important? Because that was a great example of it.
One thing about it is that everybody has a script. If they've been selling for more than a couple of weeks, they pretty much say the same things to everybody with whom they talk. It's not a matter of whether you have a script or not. It's a matter of how good your script is. So one of the reasons for getting mentoring or coaching is to have scripts that are effective, that really work, that you can utilize in your sales conversations that up your conversion ratio, your sales, and your revenue. So that's one reason for coaching. The other reason for coaching, after the initial training is done, when you know how to do a sales conversation well, and you've practiced and rehearsed the scripts, and your conversion ratio is up around 85 or 90% on a consistent basis, and you're doing really, really well, the reason to continue with coaching, as Danny has for the past 11 years or so for his teams, is that they soon forget. It's really, really easy to forget to say something or do something that you need to do in your sales conversations, and all of a sudden you're in a sales slump and everybody's saying no and you don't know why. I had one of Danny's people back, this has been back a couple of years ago, texted me and said, hey, I need to talk to you because my sales aren't going well. I'm having a tough time. And we got on a call, and she described what was going on. And I said, well, what did they say when you asked this? Oh, I haven't been asking that. I forgot about that.
Yep.
And the next day, you guys had sales conversations that evening.
Yep.
The next day she texted and said, I did 3 sales conversations and everybody said yes.
Yep.
And that's the reason to continue with coaching or to continue with mentoring. Danny has an exceptional mentoring program where he teaches chiropractors how to really be exceptional in every aspect of their practices. And many of the people that he mentors continue on with him year after year. And the reason for that is you can learn how to do something really well, and then you stop doing it that way because the habit hasn't been formed enough. And even after a habit is formed, have you ever noticed how when you form a bad habit, it's really hard to break that habit? When you form a good habit, it's really easy to break that habit. And that's why ongoing mentoring and coaching really are tremendously important. And you need to really think about what value that might bring to your practice. Right. To have ongoing mentoring from Danny or to have ongoing coaching from me or both.
Right. Right. And hey, as far as I know, Serena Williams, she's not stopping having a coach anytime soon. Or any of the other, star athletes. And we just put our mentoring on autopilot. And guess what? You have changes in your team and who works for you. And I find over and over again that we train on something, and then 3 months later, they forgot what we trained on. And it's not to mean that they're bad team members by any means. It's just human nature, right? So having someone look over what you're doing, if you are deciding, I am not going to roll the dice with the life of this person that's coming in for care, because I know that their health, their outcomes for their life, how long they're on the planet, and how much they enjoy being on the planet is going to be impacted by that conversation. So we're not going to just, wing it, right? We're going to keep upping our game.
You might know that Tiger Woods has a coach for every aspect of his game. He has a driving coach, he has a chipping coach, he has a putting coach, he has a course strategy coach. If he had just had a personal relationship coach, he would be a lot richer than he is right now. Right. And it's not that his coaches can play golf better than he can. Just think about football quarterbacks. They have a head coach, they have a quarterback coach, they have an offensive coordinator, and all of them are giving input from their own aspect, watching from wherever they're watching the game. None of them could go into the game and play quarterback as well as the quarterback that's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so even for people who already have great sales skills, they're often not able to see what's needed
Mm-hmm.
from their own viewpoint. And
Right.
that's, again, a mentor or a coach can say, oh, you're doing it that way. Why are you doing it that way? What if you did it this way? How would this work?
Right.
And just giving different input.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. So I can't help, I would be a disservice to not tell people to, if something's important to you, whatever area of your life, don't want to talk about your practice, your relationship, everything you do is have some resources for mentoring. And relative to sales and chiropractic, at the top is the sales wizard, and that's why they call him a wizard. So Hugh, I thank you so much for being part of this episode here. Is there any last message you'd like to share for chiropractors and their teams around the world that might be listening to this?
Just that there is a ton of great information for you at redcapsalescoaching.com. There are 3 free videos about answering objections that are available to you there. There are podcasts, there are blogs, a whole bunch of free stuff that you can take advantage of. And on every page on the website, there's a button that says schedule your free consult. Mm-hmm. And you can arrange a time on my calendar when you click one of those buttons to have a conversation and talk about your sales and talk about what's going well and what's not going well. Talk about your practice, talk about the things you're trying to achieve. And you can do that. There's no charge, there's no obligation, there's no pressure. Take advantage of that.
Right.
And if you're going to get some good sales strategies and ideas in the conversation. If you decide you don't want to progress any further than that, that's perfectly okay. If you decide that coaching with RedCap would be a really good value for you, that'd be great too.
Right.
Just schedule the conversation, have a conversation and find out what's available to you and how it can really help you increase the number of people that you're able to serve, increase your sales, increase your revenue, just increase every aspect of your practice.
Right. And hey, the other thing that I want to say that's important is that when people get that you increase all of that and train, that it's not for you, it's for those people that are on the table that need you to be at your best. That makes a whole nother level. When it's all focused on, well, I want to make sure I can get a bigger house. And hey, I want you to have the biggest house you can get. But when that's your why, you will not be as effective as when you say, you know what, I've got to be the best for my fans, right? You use the different athlete examples. I've got to be the best, for the people that are coming to see us. And if I fail them, they're going to go in another more invasive intervention, right? So I want to do my best for them because they deserve the best, right? So that makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely.
So thank you all for listening. Thank you for joining us on this episode. We are so grateful to have you as part of our audience. Thank you for joining us on the Mile High podcast, and make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High tick. Check out Hugh Liddle's masterclass coming up around the corner, and check out mentoring and having your team train with him as well as yourself. And of course, make sure you're on higher ground with us at our 10th year anniversary of Mile High. More people need to be unplugged from the matrix. So we look forward to seeing everybody there.